This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
This job would be great if it wasn't for the fucking customers.
You're always this stupid. Did you take lessons? Just calm down.
Oh, fuck you!
You can't handle the truth.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
In other words, be nice, asshole. Okay, so welcome to another episode of Q as in Cucumber, the podcast where we point and laugh at stupid companies, customers, and coworkers alike. I'm Lara Mack.
I'm Jessica James.
Okay, so Jess is filling in for Tanya again. We weren't going to do a Theranos update this week, but just like every week in this fucking Theranos trial, it's something comes out that I'm just like, wait, what? Hold on. Like, they clarify these little moments in the book and in the podcast and in all of the source materials that it's just giving more details that you're like, oh my God, that was the reason for that. Fuck. And like your head just wants to explode. Okay. Yeah. So we weren't going to do this, but because Tanya couldn't be here. And I look. When it comes to this show and the Theranos stuff in particular, I recognize that our listeners and viewers on YouTube do not come here to really listen to me talk about the Theranos story. They come for Tanya. Okay, let's just. My ego is not so big that I don't recognize who the star of the show is. Very much everybody's tuning in for Tanya because what just flies out of her mouth is just gold. It's really funny. I feel like in life, the secret to success somehow is just pointing a microphone at Tanya. Like
she's pretty witty and she's quick with the comebacks. You know, she's got
really
that delightful snap where she could just whip it out and be like, put you in your place.
Exactly. So I recognize that. So I do want to say what I'm going to talk about today for you guys. I will talk about when Tanya and I get together, but unfortunately she's just going through it right now. Okay. Yeah. And I'm not even. Avery is about to have the baby. Him and his girlfriend are about to have the baby. They're trying to move. So then poor Sophia has been sick and in and out of the ER and urgent care. And yeah, the poor thing, it's just a lot. So I'm not even bothering her right now. We're going to cover this real quick. Don't worry. Don't panic, listeners. I promise I will relay all this to Tanya and you will get to hear her reaction. I promise. Eventually.
That's awesome.
But I wanted to talk about it. So I'm the article that we're using. I love this guy. He's been covering this fantastically from the mercurynews.com. His name is Ethan Barron. I feel like every episode we read an article by Ethan Barron. I really feel like he's on top of this story. So he says, in a damning morning of testimony Friday, jurors in Elizabeth Holmes' criminal fraud trial heard that Theranos used the Pfizer logo and claimed the pharmaceutical giant had validated its technology in 2010, while a former Pfizer scientist testified that he had dismissed the blood testing technology 2 years earlier, and no one at Pfizer approved of the logo's use. Scientist Shane Weber had been tasked with a final review to Pfizer to determine if the company would work with Theranos. He testified in U.S. District Court in San Jose. The project included a conference call with Holmes and other Theranos representatives in which she did all the talking, Weber testified. In his final report to Pfizer, he referred to the call, saying Holmes had provided, quote, oblique, deflective, or evasive, non-informative answers to technical questions. Of his entire probe into Theranos technology and the information it had given Pfizer, Weber wrote in his final report that Theranos unconvincingly argues the case for having accomplished tasks of interest to Pfizer, and that, quote, the 9 conclusions in their summary document are not believable based on the information provided. So they flat out said, Pfizer, okay? Mm-hmm. They said, this is not believable technology, okay? This can't really exist. And one of the things, if you listen to our Theranos series that we ran into over and over and over, were all of these dudes, these old dudes that just fell in love with her. And I mean, just seemed to fall under some sort of spell that she cast that we were like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And she really did figure out with old men who weren't technologically or medically or scientifically savvy, she could throw out a couple of buzzwords and they all just fell for her. But when you actually put her in front of an old white dude who is an actual scientist, who isn't being paid by her, who looks at it objectively and doesn't fall for her bullshit, they're like, what? No.
Yeah.
This isn't a thing. This will never be a thing. Well, maybe not never, but so to come across a old dude that could see through her bullshit seems to somehow be novel. I don't know why it is, but it is, right? Now, what's interesting about her response, he recommended that Pfizer not invest money or resources into working with Theranos, but left the matter open to revisit in case Pfizer's needs changed or Theranos' technology improved, according to his report and his testimony. He talked by phone with Holmes to explain his findings and told his bosses they had agreed to get in touch every 6 months. According to an email shown to jurors, she asked for other names at Pfizer to approach, and I politely deflected. He said in an email. Asked by the prosecution why he deflected, Weber testified that, quote, he did not want multiple other points of the company being contacted and being distracted from their clinical trial duties. So basically what he just said was she was looking for somebody that maybe would fall for her charm and her bullshit, number one. And number two, we didn't want to be distracted with this child's fantasy of what a medical laboratory testing company can do.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's really what he just said. Weber, a gray-haired man in a pinstripe suit, white shirt, and striped tie who was laid off from Pfizer in 2014, was shown a version of a Theranos report that he had dismissed that had the Pfizer and Theranos logos on it, and that Holmes had emailed in 2010 to Walgreens executives when Theranos was trying to get its machines into the drugstore chain's stores. Holmes' subject line was, quote, Pfizer Theranos System Validation Final Report. The dual logo report claimed Theranos had, quote, superior performance with, quote, excellent accuracy. Weber testified that he disagreed with those claims. As for Pfizer's purported validation of Theranos' technology, he testified that he came to the opposite conclusion and that Pfizer had never endorsed the technology. Could you imagine one day you get called to testify in court? They're like, hey, did your company put this out? And reading something like, we didn't say that.
Right.
What do you mean? What? This bitch was saying that we were behind. Oh, honey, no. No.
Oh, that's crazy.
Under cross-examination Friday afternoon by Holmes' lawyer, John Klein, Weber acknowledged that he had told the prosecution in a pretrial meeting that the test types Theranos had been promoting to Pfizer were very different from what Pfizer was seeking, and that his report to Pfizer was never sent to Holmes. I don't know why that matters. Maybe I just don't understand. Later Friday, a representative from a Texas investment firm testified that Holmes' statements to investors in a 2013 conference call convinced him that Theranos was doing work in Afghanistan. Now, pause real quick. Here's what's fascinating about this. This motherfucker, he recorded that phone call.
Nice.
And the jury got to hear it.
Yeah.
They got to hear her in her own fucking voice saying, oh, yes, this technology is being used in Afghanistan on the battlefield to help save lives.
Naughty.
And that he said, this is something that really resonated with me. I have a brother who is in the Marines and he did a tour in Afghanistan. John Tolbert, vice president of finance at the Hall Group, testified. Holmes had told investors that Theranos was, quote, focused on work in Afghanistan and had been doing, quote, a lot of work with U.S. Special Operations Command. Quote, we have created a distribution system that can be used in remote areas, Holmes told investors in a recording played in court. She said putting Theranos equipment on med-evac flights could potentially improve wounded soldiers' survival rates. Jurors heard previously that Theranos had worked with the Special Operations Command, including with the U.S. Army doctor assigned to Afghanistan operations. However, a former Theranos employee, Daniel Edlund, testified earlier in the week that he was not aware of it being used clinically on soldiers in war zones or military aircraft. Prosecutors allege Holmes falsely claimed to investors that technology was being used on military helicopters, blah, blah, blah. Tolbert said in the conference call with investors in which Holmes claimed Theranos technology could, quote, run any combination of lab tests from a tiny blood sample was key in persuading Hall Group, which had invested $2 million in the startup in 2006, to add another $5 million. He testified that he believes Theranos' purported military work and claimed ability to simplify blood testing represented a, quote, an opportunity to make money, but to do so in a way that was beneficial for lots and lots and lots of people.
That's crazy.
Okay, so we're going to pause. There's one more thing in this article that I do want to get back to, but something that wasn't in this article that I was like, oh, we need to talk about this. So the author of Bad Blood, the book, okay, John Carreyrou. Honestly, I really want a t-shirt that says John Carreyrou is my spirit animal. He's amazing. I truly adore like how just relentless he has been on this story. And when the Sunny and Elizabeth's text messages have been reviewed, seeing how they at the time were terrified of him is deeply satisfying. It is deeply satisfying to me that in the moments that they were doing this, they were scared shitless.
Right.
Love it. Okay. And John Carreyrou was like, oh, no. We're not playing. I'm not playing around. This is bullshit. You put people's lives at risk, and he's just not having it.
Yeah.
It's like, no. I just adore him. He's been doing a weekly podcast. He took a break for a couple weeks. But he's been doing a weekly podcast where he's explaining things that he's learned since he published the book and doing kind of recaps of the trial at the same time. And his episode this week was, god damn, it was fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
They were playing a bunch of SEC testimony of Sunny and Elizabeth. And the thing that at the time the articles came out about, you know, what he was writing, that all the shenanigans that Theranos was doing, he had put in the article that what they were doing was taking finger stick blood samples, diluting them twice, which now you've diluted it down to pretty much nothing.
Right.
Okay. And they hacked into commercially available machines and hacked them to make them be able to run tests on smaller blood samples. Okay. But you still, because you diluted it twice, you still had more of a volume, but you're still not getting accurate results. Right. Now, when John Carreyrou, before he published, he sat down with Theranos lawyers and everybody. He said he knew that this is what they were doing, and they were claiming that they weren't. And they kept saying, oh, well, we can't tell you that because it's a trade secret. And his point at the time was, how is using commercially available equipment constituted as a trade secret?
Right.
That's not a trade secret. What are you talking about? Right? But they kept pushing this idea. Well, they played some of Sunny's SEC testimony where because Elizabeth Holmes went to a Wall Street Journal conference and spoke. She said, whenever finger stick tests are done, they are performed on equipment that is proprietary to Theranos and is not commercially available.
Okay.
That was a lie. But her and Sunny justified that lie by claiming that by hacking into these Siemens machines and making them run not in a way that they were designed to run, that somehow constituted a trade secret.
No, it doesn't work that way.
That is not how, that does not constitute a proprietary, like he truly believed them hacking into this machine was like $1 billion invention.
So just to clarify for my own information, So
Sure.
if they're having to hack into these machines to be able to use them, I mean, usually when you hack into something, you're not supposed to be using it in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So is that, I mean, so I'm understanding this correctly. If they're having to hack into it, they shouldn't be using them in the first place. They're not their machines.
They ordered the machines through third-party companies that they created, right?
Okay.
To hide that they were the ones buying them. Okay.
Okay.
And then they got them and they broke into them and they made alterations to them. And then what they did was they told the people who ran them that whenever the Siemens people, because it was a machine called the Siemens Advia,
Okay.
they said whenever the Siemens people came to do regular service on the machines, they had them change it back to what it was originally to hide what they were doing with the machines from Siemens.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just absolutely. But John Carreyrou truly believes that this is going to be the argument that she makes, that, well, it was proprietary technology because we changed it.
I don't think it works that way.
So it's a ludicrous idea to think that by taking something that's commercially available and making it do something that A, still doesn't provide accurate results, and B, is addressing a problem that's not a problem. Like, this is not $1 billion idea. It's not $1 billion product.
Right.
It's ridiculous. The last thing we'll talk about, and then we'll move on to record the parent memoirs and our other stuff. This jury I've never heard of a jury just losing its goddamn mind like this. They had to excuse another fucking juror this week because what it sounds like is she was playing Sudoku and another juror, like during testimony, okay, another juror saw this and basically turned her in and was like, I don't think she's taking this seriously. And the judge was like, have you been doing this? And she's like, yeah, it helps me focus. And he's like, no.
Right.
Focus.
Sudoku.
Okay. So now at this point, they're concerned enough that this trial is supposed to last into December. They only have 2 alternates left. If they keep excusing jurors for this weird shit, they're going to run out of jurors. And their mistrial is going to be declared. So, guys, it can't be this hard.
Hopefully it's, not some kind of Elizabeth Holmes in the pockets shenanigans. Like, she has
not
jurors on standby to get stuff thrown out for a mistrial.
Honestly, with this bitch, it would not surprise me.
Right. Yeah.
With this trick, I'm sorry. No. Anyway. Okay. So that's our quick little Theranos update. I promise Tanya and I will cover it, but just want to let you know your girl's still paying attention to it. It's still breaking my brain, but
breaking your brain.
We'll get through this together. We will get through this Theranos trial together.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
All right, so perfect. So until next time, I'm Lara Mac.
I'm Jessica James.
Love your faces.
Keep it sane.
Like what you hear? Rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcasting platform. And follow us on our Facebook page by searching Q as in Cucumber. Don't forget to check out our other show, hosted by me and Jessica James, called The Parent Memoirs. And we want to hear from you. Share your stories by emailing us at qasincucumber@yahoo.com, and you might just hear your stories on a future episode. Love your faces!
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.